Okay, I'm doing this recording because I did not get to do the presentations that I had promised. Um, this is about answering case study questions. So we are going to go through, it's very short, just 15 slides, so it won't take long. All right, so what are case studies? A case study is a scenario in a particular professional context which students are expected to analyze and respond to. It is guided by specific questions posed concerning the situation. So basically, we give you a scenario and then we ask you some questions and we expect you to answer those questions based on what is happening in the scenario. In many cases, the scenario or case study involves a number of issues or problems that must be dealt with within a professional workplace or a professional situation or corporate, within a company, etc., etc. Case study assignments usually require students to identify problems and issues in a scenario, to demonstrate their developing knowledge of theories and professional policies, and to make decisions and recommendations based on these to either prevent or solve some of the issues in that scenario. So we have some steps that we have to go through when we're going to answer a case study question. So case studies can come in different forms. Sometimes you are asked to analyze a case study in terms of, it's like you're writing a term paper. But what I want to discuss here is not necessarily if you're writing a term paper, but if you're answering, say, 3 or 4 or 5 questions that come after maybe a 1-page or a 1.5-page case study. It's not the lengthy case studies that sometimes people have to do in more like the master's programs. No, this is more of a assessment, test or exam setting. All right, so the first step you want to start with is to read the case study and read the questions carefully. Sometimes I get the impression that the students really don't even read what is happening in the case study. So you need to read it thoroughly. And if time permits, read it more than once. So read the case and associated questions carefully. Highlight the main points of the case and any issues that you can identify. Now read the questions closely and analyze what they are requiring you to do. Read the case again, linking the information that is relevant to each question you have been asked. That's why I like when you're doing paper-based assessment. It's so much easier when you're doing a paper-based assessment that you can just make connections and make a little notes and highlight things and that kind of thing. Not so easy when you're online and you have to type and all of that. But the key thing here, you need to read the case study, look at the questions, read the case study again, then you make your connections. Step 2, identify the issues in the case study. Now, case studies describe a situation which may arise in a particular professional or social context. They often involve a number of people in a complex situation. They will often describe a situation which is problematic, possibly in how it is dealt with or in its complexity. An important part of your answer is to analyze the situation and to identify the issues or actions described in the case which may be problematic. So use the following questions to help you. Think about what actions were taken in the case. Were these actions the most appropriate and why? Were there any consequences of the taken actions? Was anything omitted or not considered? Were actions or procedures in line with existing codes of practice, policy, or theories? So what this means now is that you would have studied your content, you would have looked at the topic that the case study is going to be on. If the lecturer, for instance, had told you which unit the case study is going to be on, then you would have gone through and studied the content and look at the theories and the concepts and all of that. And then when you look at the case study now, it should come to you, if you had studied, it should come to you some of these things that are coming out in the case. Step 3 is to link theory to practice. So use your knowledge of existing codes of practice, theories, and or other professional documents and behaviors to decide what was done appropriately and what was not. Make notes on these. So for example, if someone was interviewed in your case study, were proper interviewing techniques used? Find theory on interviews in your professional context in your readings and make links as to what was done well and what was not done well. This can be expanded upon in your answer with references to your readings. Now, when you're in a exam situation, you won't be able to do much reference, if any at all. But what you can do is to say, the theory of XYZ says this particular thing, and we see how it is manifesting in the case because A happened and B happened and C happened and that kind of thing. So whatever the theory is, you have to link it to the case. One mistake that I see a lot of students make is to repeat things from the case study. Take a chunk of information out of the case study and write it again. Don't. That is not analyzing a case study. We give you a case study as a higher order assessment so that you can analyze, apply theory, and evaluate and synthesize. Those are the higher order criteria objectives in what we call Bloom's taxonomy. So we want you to be able to make a proper assessment of what happened in the case and to link it back to the theory. And sometimes the students are just not able to do that. And I realize that sometimes students just don't do well in case studies because they just cannot link the theory to what is happening in the case. Step 4 is to plan out your answer now. Now, for most case studies that we use in assessments, we give you 3 or so questions. I tend to limit mine to 3. Like when I set case studies, I tend to limit my questions to 3. I may go to 4, but I prefer to use about 3 questions, and at least one of those questions is going to be something in-depth and detailed that would be similar to you writing an essay or even half of an essay. So plan out your answer. It can be useful to use the questions you have been set as headings and to answer each part in turn, reducing the chance of omitting the set questions. You can always take out the headings before you submit if you wish. No, I want you to keep the headings. So if it's question 1, you write out the question, then you answer it. Lecturers usually set questions in a logical order, so answer in the order they are written on in your question or your question paper. Usually we do a build up. We ask you a simple question first, then we ask you a more complex question, then we can go back to a intermediate question then, or that is what I tend to do. But the first question is just going to be a simple question to get you started, and then we get into the meat of it, you know, a little bit more I don't want to say challenging, but a little bit more complex. Step 5 now is that you write your case study answers. So like any assignment, you will need an introduction, body sections in which you answer the questions put to you regarding the case study and a conclusion. If it is that is just a simple answer, like a question 1, I don't expect you to go through all of this. But if it is like a question 2, you can, even if you leave out the introduction, I want a proper body and need to have a proper body where you are discussing the issues. So that's why even previously I was saying that some of the questions will be going to be similar to an essay. So this step kind of more referring to if you were going to analyze a long 10, 12 page case study in the form of a term paper. But when you're in an assessment setting, I don't expect the introduction and the conclusion, but I still left it on the slide anyway. I expect a proper body though. I expect you to flesh out your answers, etc. And from the essay writing seminar that I did, we had gone through the keywords like discuss and define and explain and analyze and those things that we give you in essays, the same for the case study. So you have to be sure of what you're doing. And as I love to use discuss, because discuss means that you're dissecting it and looking at the topic and giving me things from different angles or just fleshing out the topic, etc. So those are the steps that I expect you to go through when you are answering your case study question. So I'm going to go back and do a quick recap, read the case study and questions carefully, identify the issues in the case, link theory to practice or what is happening in the case study, plan out your answer, then you write. And it's good to read the case study from start to finish, read all the questions, then go back and read the case study again. And in assessments, we don't normally give you such a long case study that you cannot read it twice. You can read it twice. You will have the time to read it twice. All right, so usually a case study is 1 page. I try and fit it in one letter size page, but at the very most, it is going to be one legal size page, which will be like a page and a half for letter. So, having said all of that, because it's not complex, I just give you all the information that you need. But I am Miss Example. I love to go through an example to make sure that you understand what is happening. So let us look at an example. This is a case study that I had put together some time ago from some information that I found online, and then I just formulated the question. So I'm going to read it. It's about teamwork, and teamwork is a popular topic. So you would have probably looked at teamwork in maybe one or maybe 2 or 3 of the courses that you have done. So let me go ahead and read the scenario. A team has been pulled together from various parts of a large service organization to work on a new process improvement project that is needed to improve how the company manages and supports its client base. The team leader on this project is Marsha from the Negril office, who has 15 years experience as a project manager or team leader managing process improvement projects. The other team members are Damien. He has 10 years experience on various types of projects, expertise in scheduling and budget control, and his location is in Montego Bay. Marissa, she has 5 years experience as an individual contributor on projects, strong programming background, some experience developing databases, and her location is in Negril. Kevon has 8 years experience working on various projects, expertise in earned value management, stakeholder analysis, and problem solving, and his location is in Kingston. Shireen has 2 years experience as an individual contributor on projects, and she's located in Kingston. Shamoy has 7 years experience on process improvement projects, background in developing databases, expertise in earned value management, and her location is in Montego Bay. So we see that we have 5 team members and Marsha is the team lead. So Marsha has worked on projects with Marissa and Kevon, but has never worked with the others. Shireen has worked with Kevon. No one else has worked with each member of this team. Marsha has been given a very tight deadline to get this project completed. So Marsha has decided that it would be best if the team met face-to-face initially, even though they will be working virtually for the project. She has arranged a meeting at the Kingston office for the entire team. They will spend 2 days getting introduced to each other and learning about the project. And this is the case. This is a very short case, but this is the case, and it has been a whole heap of information. If you realize that even though it is short, it is very compact. A lot of information is there to work with. So I'm going to start with the first question. What types of team are represented in the case study? Justify your answer. So we'd love to ask you to justify, guys. It's just 5 marks because it's a simple question. It's just what type of teams, and you're going to explain why you say so. So 2 types of teams, this is the answer now. 2 types of teams are represented in the case study: cross-functional teams and virtual teams. A cross-functional team is composed of employees from about the same hierarchical level, but from different areas of expertise. And we saw that coming out. So for example, Damien does budget and control, Marissa develops databases, Kevon is a stakeholder analyst, Shireen is a project support, and Shamo is an expert in value management. So you see that, guys? I said that is a cross-functional team and a virtual team, and I'm explaining why I said so. So I discussed the cross-functional first. If you notice, I didn't pick up any chunk of information out of the case study, but I repeated what is there in terms of what Damien and Marissa and Kevon and Shireen and Shamoy does. After the 2 days, they will continue as a virtual team. A virtual team is a group made up of geographically or organizationally dispersed members who are linked primarily through advanced information and telecommunications technologies. That is a good 5 marks. Because if you just leave it at cross-functional team and virtual team and don't explain to me why, you're probably only going to get 1 mark. out of the 5. You need to explain to me, why do you say that they are a cross-functional team, and why do you say that they are a virtual team? We need to know that. All right, so good 5 marks. Question number 2. So you say how much it worth? All of 20 marks. This is like writing an essay now, guys. But I don't want you to go into the introduction and conclusion, really. Unless you were writing like a long-term paper based on a case, the introduction and conclusion can stay. So let us look at the question. Using the stages of team development model, develop a plan of how you foresee that the team will move through the stages from start to completion of the project. Be sure to highlight any problems that they may encounter and the role that Marsha will play at each stage. So basically, we're just asking, how do teams develop? And you know that the stages are forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. So on the first slide, I have the first 3, and then on another slide, I have the last 2. So look how the question is answered now. So I have the answer is the first stage. So it's kind of a little bit abrupt, but that's okay. You just have a little heading that says first stage, which is forming. The forming stage of development is a period of orientation and getting acquainted. Members break the ice and test one another for friendship possibilities and task orientation. Uncertainty is high during this stage, and members usually accept that Marsha is the project leader. During this initial stage, members are concerned about things such as what is expected of me, what behavior is acceptable, and will I fit in? During the forming stage, Marsha, the project leader, should provide time for members to get acquainted with one another and encourage them to engage in formal social discussions. So right there, so it's five stages, so each of them going to be worth 4 marks. Right there, so you get your full marks, because you talk about the forming stage and what it is. You inject Marsha into it, what she should be doing, what the other members of the team should be doing. Because Marsha is the project leader, you say specifically Marsha, instead of just saying the project lead, like you're just writing about something else and you're not referring to the case. When you answer the questions, you need to refer to the case where possible. The second stage now is storming. Now, during the storming stage, individual personalities emerge. People become more assertive in clarifying their roles and what is expected of them. This stage is marked by conflict and disagreement, etc., etc., etc. And we go down to where we say the expression of emotions, even negative one, helps to build camaraderie and a shared understanding of goals and tasks. So we're discussing here what happens at the storming stage. And you will see here that, again, we mention what the team leader should do. And we could, as I was saying before, right, Marsha should encourage participation by each team member. And then norming, we do the similar thing as well, because that is what the question requires. At each stage, what is happening in the team and what is Marsha's role? As the team lead, what is Marsha's role? And we do the same thing for performing. We do the same thing for adjourning. You know, what happens when the team breaks up? And more than likely, this is a team that would break up because they are working on a project. Even though not all teams will disband. A lot of teams are just long-term teams that work together continuously. But this team, because it is a project team, it will definitely reach their adjourning stage. So you see how you gain 20 marks there, guys? You write the things then, you write, you explain everything, and just keep writing. Because if you just say that during the performance stage, the major emphasis is on problem solving and accomplishing the assigned task, and you don't write anything else, you're going to get 1 out of 4. And if you do that for all the 5 stages, you're only going to get 5 out of 20, because you did not explain yourself. You did not do what the question asked you to do. You have to be comprehensive in your answer and do exactly what the question asked you to do. All right. Question number 3 now. You see we kind of tone back down again. So we start off small, we get heavy, and then we come back light again, or kind of light again. So Marsha has been a team leader for 15 years, and therefore her teams are highly functional, and she's not aware of the characteristics of a dysfunctional team. Advise Marsha of these characteristics should something go wrong with this particular team. So you can just write this answer as simply as it states there, or you could just write it in a whole paragraph. And it says the team can become dysfunctional if team members lack trust, fear of conflict, there's a lack of commitment, there's avoidance of accountability, and there's inattention to results. And you explain what each of those things mean. And you are therefore likely to get your full 10 marks because each explanation will be 2 marks. If you just write lack of trust and fear of conflict and you don't expand on it, you wouldn't even get the 2 marks. You'd probably get 0.5 marks. And out of the 10 marks, you might get 2.5. Because again, you're not explaining yourself. You need to explain yourself so that I know what you're talking about. And that is pretty much it for answering case study questions. I really wanted to do this recording because so many students have problems with case study. A big part of it is because you're not studying, you're not reading and that kind of thing. So, and I mean, attendance to class is so poor. So you don't know how to think about the issues critically. And case study is one of the best learning experiences you can have because it gives you a scenario that happens in the real world, and then it asks you to analyze it and apply the theory to it. Now, in university, we teach a lot of theory. When you go out in the workplace, the theory not so important. It's just the practical things. But in academia, we teach you a lot of theory, and you need to apply those theories to the cases because a lot of these cases, as old and abstract as they may sound, it is the basis on which organizations operate even today. All right, so I want you to, if you need to watch this video twice, do so. If you need to go back and look at a case study that you have done before, you can look at where you went wrong and just be guided accordingly. The end. So follow the instructions here and you should do a good job at answering your case study questions. Okay, guys, take care. Bye.